To our board members, it's good to see you. Thank you for being here today. We appreciate it, and I would like to give a shout out to your team for working with me and my team to resolve numerous issues in Southern New York County. Can you talk to me about what efforts the board has taken to support businesses recovering from the effects of unilateral shutdowns during the COVID-19 disaster declaration?
Yes, Senator. As we all know, COVID, nobody saw coming. No one knew how serious it was going to be. The governor, in my opinion, did the right thing exercising his emergency authority. We had people dying every day.
We're not going to relitigate that. Just what is the Liquor Control Board doing to support businesses that had struggles as a result of those shutdowns?
Well, Senator, we waived the license renewal fees for 2 years, or?
Yeah, during the emergency declaration, we waived the licensing fees. We granted immediate operating authority for those places that wanted to have temporary outside areas, and in fact, you all codified that later. We stopped the clock on the safekeeping periods, and because there is a fee associated with that, for a period of time, we had stopped the clock on renewals, so people didn't have to renew their license. We did that all under the theory that it was an emergency, so you could stretch things a little bit. Once the emergency was over, we really didn't have the authority to continue some of this stuff, but I'm happy to say you all in the legislature adopted some of that stuff. You permanently waived some of the surcharges for some groups. You have extended the authority or the ability to give instant authority for outside temporary extensions. You have incorporated some of the provisions that allowed for the return of or the transfer of certain alcohols when someone goes out of business. In a lot of ways, we're restricted what we can do under the liquor code, but we did what we could.
Do you see any areas where the board could improve support for the long-term business recovery, especially our locally owned small businesses? Is there anything that you could do as it stands now, or you need legislative help to do?
I'm trying to think, and our authority is pretty limited on what direct assistance we could give to a business.
Some of the things we did, to the extent that their local business, those small businesses said, this was useful and helpful, and it would be great if you reinstituted it, if you all were to adopt it legislatively. Again, like you did for the outdoor serving areas, like you did for the off-premise catering permits where you eliminated the cap. Certainly we could implement that, but we are a creature of the legislature. The other suggestion would be maybe we're not the best people to ask what would help those small businesses. Maybe it's the small businesses who need to tell you, this is what we think would be helpful.
And that's a great transition. There was an issue that caught the attention of a national publication, and their headline of this article reads, "Liquor regulators are seeking revenge on bars that broke pandemic rules." Quote, "The people who violated the governor's mandates and orders should face some consequences," end quote, a Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board member said in 2022. So, much to my surprise, the article recaps a story of a bar based in my district that had 2 violations according to the Liquor Control Board during the pandemic. And the issue arises when these locally owned establishments renew their license with the Liquor Control Board. So it was either sign a conditional licensing agreement or risk further legal action by the state. And this conditional licensing agreement caused this bar's insurance premiums to triple. I mean, they were huge before then. They are now triple that. So for the longest time, the Liquor Control Board was a partner in helping these locally owned bars and taverns to recover from the pandemic. But it seems that now, even according to national publications, there is a concerted effort to go after these small businesses. And over the last 2 years, Can you tell me how many establishments have signed conditional licensing agreements for these violations that, on the surface, to take a quote out of the article, look like ticky-tack violations as part of the licensing renewal process?
Senator, absolutely. And I know you mentioned, I agree with you, we don't need to revisit the emergency declaration and so forth. The dilemma that we faced is that most licensees in the Commonwealth adhered to the rules and sacrificed their income, sacrificed their businesses in some cases, and some establishments in the Commonwealth completely ignored them and continued to operate it. And Pennsylvania State Police Liquor Code enforcement officers issued citations to those establishments that did that. Now, the dilemma that we found ourselves in, and we're still in to a certain extent because there's a few, I think over 100 that are still pending on this. How is it fair to the establishment that played by the rules, shut down, did not violate, sacrificed their income, maybe their business, compared to an establishment that ignored everything and kept operating? So
Chairman Holden, I will tell you that I'm not going to get into the specifics of this, but you would be shocked to know how minor and minuscule they were for a bar in this article, which you can read, and I'll happily give you the article if you haven't read it.
I read it, Senator.
You know, prior to Board Member Negra's departure, these conditional licensing agreements for COVID-related violations were never approved. And the article then outlines how the LCB unanimously approved dozens of conditional licensing agreements due to these COVID-related violations, at least 10 instances that required the sale of the license for the entity to comply. So other than the board member's departure, can you tell me what's changed with the board to get to this point?
Well, I'm going to allow my fellow board member Randy to speak, because he and I had a conversation about this in the morning. But the fact of the matter is that it just didn't seem fair to people who played by the rules. So basically, the conditional licensing agreement is that if you get another citation for not being a bona fide restaurant or violating an emergency directive, well, we don't believe there's going to be any emergency directives. So it's really, I don't want to say insignificant, but it's really not a very serious conditional license agreement to solve, or to follow. But Randy and I had a conversation this morning about it, and I think you want to comment on it.
Thank you, Senator. This is a question I think that has been through the halls over here, and it certainly has been through the halls over at the LCB building. We want to be as fair as we can be, but we also have to have certain laws that we respect. Now, when that emergency preparedness came out, we're not revisiting it, but we need to set this up. Who knew what was going on? So I'm not going to badmouth anybody for the emergency declarations that came out. We can debate the issue whether they continue too long for not. I have my own opinion on that, but they did hurt people and they helped some people. Depends on how you look at it. Now, as far as the CLAs go, conditional license agreement, there's a good and bad. I don't want to go so far as to say the ugly. I don't see an ugly, but a good and a bad to it. And what it does is there's certain violations that you create that someone can violate the liquor code a number of times in certain categories that, according to the liquor code, we really need to take seriously and take action on.
Well, I will tell you, Board Member Velakovich, allowing a band that was playing at a fundraiser for the fire company to plug into the tavern's electricity supply was one of those violations.
I think I recall that.
Not serving underage minors, not serving alcohol after hours, allowing a band for a volunteer fire company's fundraiser to plug into their electricity. My goodness. I think we need to seriously think about how we're going to address this. Talk about a ticky-tack violation. That's a ticky-tack violation. That is just shocking to me that would be something that would get somebody into hot water. but it did. So I think we need to revisit how we treat these folks and take another look at this because, we're trying to encourage our economy to grow, and shutting down businesses and giving them huge insurance bills because of plugging a band's electric equipment into the outlet causes a violation. Good grief. Thank you very much,
And I'm
Mr.
not
Chair.
doubting you at all. I just can't see what the violation is for doing that. So
Well, I would be happy to share the article with you. I would be happy to have you talk to these folks.
Sure,
Right.
absolutely. We'll be in-
This is just beyond the pale.
Well, I can't see what the violation is there, so we'll be in touch with you, okay?
Thank you.